in terms of looking at some of our allies in the Middle East, like Israel, there's certain things with which I disagree with him on, and that's a lot of people who are in my boat. There's like 80% that they like about his policies and 20% that they don't entirely agree with.
You disagree with him on foreign policy, is that correct?
Some foreign policy. Some foreign policy.
Okay. So do you think that we should bring the troops home like he says, or you think we should be involved in wars in the rest of the world with people that haven't attacked us?
Well, that's kind of a loaded question.
Well, is it true that we are involved in many countries that have not attacked us?
Well, then you're presupposing that we haven't had any interests which have been threatened by any other outside entities. I mean, there's a difference between nation building and then also acting to make sure that your interests are protected. There's a huge difference in that. I don't like nation building. I don't think that we should have been involved in Libya. I don't think that we should have been involved in Uganda. I think we should have gotten the hell out of Afghanistan a lot quicker. I would have liked a more clear plan with Iraq. But then again, I'm not president. But at the same time, I also see the necessity of acting in certain areas to make sure that your interests are protected. But that's a decision that has to be weighed carefully, and you can't. You can't go and fight other people's wars for them. I don't believe in getting involved in civil wars unless it affects our interests.
Do you have a principle that permits you to determine when we should go to war and when we should not?
And I haven't even. Again, it's at the end of the day, and I've had 3 hours of radio, and I haven't even thought about that.
So can you evaluate effectively without a principle?
Well, I think I didn't say that I didn't have one. It's just...
That's what I asked you. Do you have a principle?
Well, like I said, if our interests are threatened, then there you go.
Okay, so your principle is if our interests are threatened, then we should go to war with them.
Well, I think there's a big difference between going to war. You're immediately assuming that because our interests are threatened that we would just jump to go to war with someone.
No, I just want to know the principle that you use to determine when we should go to war.
If our interests are threatened, then I think that we should proceed. I think that war is the last option. Nobody likes war, and I think there are many steps that lead up to preventing that from happening. But at the same time, we can't expect to have peace and be peaceful with people who do not want to be peaceful with us and have shown it over and over again, more years than I've been alive.
If another country is harboring terrorists that have attacked us, should we go to war with them?
I think we should ask them why they're harboring terrorists. I think there's other things. I think that war is a last option.
So then that's not sufficient reason to go to war.
Well, it would have to depend on any diplomacy leading up to that and whether or not they are willing to not do things which would compromise our security and the interests of the American people.
If the other country has weapons of mass destruction, or we think they do, they've attacked a neighbor and they've abused their own people, is that sufficient reason to go to war with them?
Same answer is going to apply there.
So what is the principle that you're using to determine whether to go to war or not? In other words, what is the principle that you use to determine whether our interests are at stake or not?
Whether or not there's a credible threat to the security of the United States, and that's something that our country can deduce. I got like a minute more, and then we have a car waiting.
Was there a credible threat with Iraq?
I think there was a credible threat with Iraq.
They were going to attack us?
What kind of, I'm curious as to the point of your interview. Are you with Accuracy in Media?
I'm just trying to understand your reasoning.
Sounds like a big kind of like Ron Paul's interview.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what you think.
Accuracy in Media?
With Accuracy in Media? No.
I think what we have here is a genuine misunderstanding. I work for AIM TV. The abbreviation of Accuracy in Media is AIM, and maybe you thought that I work for Accuracy in Media, but it just happens to be the same abbreviation. AIM TV is the same as Accuracy in Media, only in abbreviation, but not in the company that it represents. So there was no dishonesty or any intent to trick you into an interview or anything else like that.
Okay, our interview's finished. Thank you.
Oh, okay.
You told me you were with Accuracy in Media,
No,
and then you came to do this interview. Here's
with,
the point.
the
How
bottom line.
did 1 million Kurds die in Iraq?
Right.
How did they kill them?
Saddam Hussein killed them, but they
with
didn't
gas,
attack us.
With gas.
Right.
Wouldn't that be classified as a weapon of mass destruction because a million Kurds are mass
So do you
destruction?
think we should go to war with any country that has weapons of mass destruction?
Why are you making a presupposition that first we would immediately jump to war?
Well, I'm asking you about
Who
the war
are
in
you with,
Iraq.
by the way?
My name is Jan Helfeld.
Okay.
What's the matter? Why are you so upset?
Because it's your
Are
questions.
these questions something wrong with the questions?
Well, yes, because you're not asking objective questions. You're saying, would you
Well-
immediately go to war? Would you go to war? Would you
Well,
go to war?
I
What
want
is
to
your
know what the
principle?
principle that you use to determine whether we should go to war or not.
Whether or not our interests are threatened.
So-
Thank you.
Right, but you don't
I gotta
have
go.
a principle.
I have people waiting for me downstairs.
Okay,
you
you don't-
misrepresented yourself to me and told me that you were with Accuracy in Media, and
No,
you're not
that was
Accuracy
a
in Media.
misunderstanding. I
Then you
said
started asking me
MTV.
all of these questions about.
Is there a problem with asking you about this?
No, you can ask me a
I was
question,
actually
but you were
talking
saying
about spending, but you didn't appear to want to talk about
no.
spending.
I
so
answered
decided
your
to talk
questions,
about,
and then you
foreign
started talking
policy.
about war. I gave you asked me questions, I gave you answers, and then you started saying, "But Ron Paul is the only candidate that does this," or "But then why would we do this if we're going to go to war?" It's as though
Well,
you're
it appeared-
presupposing every option is to lead to war.
So no, I'm just trying to. We need, as a people, to have a clear principle
Right.
as to when we should go to war and when we shouldn't.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, I
okay,
totally agree with
right.
that.
So
Okay.
I was wondering if you had such a principle that you could tell our viewers what it was.
And
so
I
we could
repeated it
examine
over and over again.
If our interests are at stake, but what is the principle that you use to
You're
determine if
trying
our
to-
interests
you're
are at
tr-
stake?
you're
That's a
trying
vague
to-
statement. Nobody.
No, it's not, because not every
It are-
country is the same. Not every country is the same.
Are-
Not every country poses the same risk. Not every situation is the same.
That's what-
You're trying to judge every single incident by one yardstick, and you can't do that. That's a logical fallacy. You cannot use a broad, universal brush on every single foreign policy incident.
So there is
it
no
has to be
principle.
gone. It has to be done individually.
What's a principle?
Okay, our interview's done. Thank you.